Hi, I'm Dan Moore from GAK, and I'm here at HHB with Alex Theakston taking a look at the Moog One.
Mate.
So this is something that is greatly anticipated, something that we've been keeping under our hats for some time, because both of us had the opportunity to see this some time ago. It's been long mooted that Moog were going to produce a polysynth, and it looks like they've delivered.
I think they did it. Do you reckon they've done it?
They have done it. Available in 8 and 16 voice. 16 voice with 48 oscillators, I understand.
Yeah.
For when 47 oscillators just isn't enough.
They had to push it, just
Indeed.
one more.
Indeed.
And that one oscillator really does make the...
It does make all the difference,
It does,
doesn't
doesn't it? Yeah.
So, as you can see, it's an absolute beast and beauty, all in one. And, well, Alex, talk about maybe the sort of genesis and legacy a little bit, and then we can bring it back up to date by showing you what it does. Okay,
so, you know, Moog, historically, Moog started out making modular synths, you know, which always make one note at once. Although you could always patch the oscillators and have them at once, but it was all these monophonic instruments. And then obviously during the 70s and 80s, microprocessor technology evolves and you begin to get these polysynths emerging. And one of the greats, there's many great polysynths, but one of the arguably the greats is the memory Moog, which is kind of like a polyphonic mini Moog. And the memory Moog was, you know, I don't think they've made that many of them.
No.
It was a beast, you know. And so the idea is, you know, people have been asking Moog to make kind of a new memory Moog, like bring it back. But obviously, if you're going to bring it back, you're not going to just necessarily do what the memory Moog was. We have, you know, microprocessor technology is billions of times better than it was then. And so the opportunity is to do something that's, you know, that can give you the power of a memory Moog, but there's something is also modern, and it isn't quite a memory Moog. So if you look at like Google pictures in a memory Moog, it almost looks, you know,
physically there's a clear lineage between the two synthesizers. They've obviously taken the inspiration from the memory Moog.
Yeah. But just to say that, I mean, whilst this can do the sounds of a memory Moog, it isn't a memory Moog clone. You know, it's not like the memory Moog oscillators or the memory Moog filter even, although it is a ladder filter and it totally has that kind of warm sort of, you know, meganess of the memory Moog. But this is modern, so, you know, obviously, yes, you've got preset memory, but there's just, like, from a usability perspective, I would say that in a weird way, given that the Moog One is obviously one of the more expensive synths that Moog make, I would say it's probably one of the friendliest, like, genuinely, like, so by what I mean by that, it's just like everything is available to you, everything is kind of there, and if there are extra deep functions, they're only a button press away, and it's very clear what everything is because of the screen, but the screen isn't relied on as a kind of cheat, it's just there to give you more information so that you can access stuff. And there is just so much like sound design potential in this thing. And there's so many really nice concessions to making it like a friendly and joyful experience for a sound designer to explore. Like, just like one example is this little snapshot button. So when you're designing a sound, you know, as you know, you save a preset. You know, in traditional, in other synths with preset memory, there are obviously often banks, and sort of what we have it in here is a demo state that I created where I've gone through and I've created my own category because I wanted to know all my favorite presets, and I've created my own category called favorites, and you could have like the Dan category, which is yours, or if you were doing a sound design project, you could say, I want to go through all the things, I want to like collect all my sounds together, I'll name it in a certain way. And you can do that really easily. In fact, you can actually plug a USB keyboard into the back of the Moog One and type in the names of the presets. It's like so nice.
And all that, you've got categories, mood, group, type, so there's various attributes that allow you to navigate the...
Yeah, in a super friendly way. So it's just like atmospheric, brass, classic, you know, keys, leads, mono, and so forth. But what I was saying with the snapshot thing is that when you're designing a sound, yeah, you would save the sound at a certain point when you thought, that's really cool, but I don't want to like mess it too much. I'm maybe going to try something else. What you can do with snapshots, if you push snapshot, it will save the preset in that state, almost a preset within a preset. And then when you hold shift and snapshots, if they're present, you can see all of the snapshots you've got. So it's a way of saying, well, if I'm designing a sound, I'm about to make a change, I can almost save it. I can just save it with one button push.
Like a scratch pad.
Like a scratch, yeah. And then you make your change.
Time
and then
machine.
You push it again. And if you think that wasn't so good, you can always come back and you can make presets out of that. You know, come back in time, go back to 2 days ago, or do you know what I mean? And those are saved as part of the preset. So 5 years from now, you can come back and go back through your old snapshots. So it's just like one example of the super friendliness. Another one is making a modulation. You see on the LFOs, which there are 4, there's a destination button.
Yeah.
You push destination and you just push the control.
Exactly.
Turn the control, and then that becomes positive or negative modulation.
Yeah.
So it's
So
like
incredibly intuitive.
dead.
And I think the game changer is the more buttons on these, what they call modules. They've obviously called back on their heritage from the modular systems, and tried to split it up in a way that, because obviously this could be intimidating, but it's actually arranged in such a way that it makes it incredibly accessible and inspiring as well.
Yeah.
So we'll touch on the more buttons a little bit later, but effectively what it does in each section, so you have 3 oscillators here. On every section, actually, you've got this more button which brings up a bunch of parameters that allow you to deep dive into each section.
Yeah, the core stuff is there, but you push the button and it gets you into the deep stuff. Like you can do things, for example, in the oscillators where you adjust the pitch tracking. So you can make oscillator 3 track badly by an amount that you choose, and so it's like all these little like refinements so that you can set it up exactly so.
That was one of the things that made me go ooh, was that being able to get all the oscillators to track individually, so you can make it sound like, you know, a big old synth when actually it's a very big new synth.
Yeah.
Which is something that's, you know, with modern polys and certainly virtual analogs, they certainly can sound a little bit flat, whereas this has all of the life and all of the texture that you could want.
If you want it though, and you can always then bring it into out as well. Precise tuning if you want. But you can wonk it out. There's this oscillator detune, but there is also a global pitch variance which you can choose, which is like a global slop. So you can make the whole synth go all woozy and basically CS80 like, because you've got multiple layers. You have not just 2 like on a CS8, you've got 3. So you can have basically 3 voices.
So a basic left to right overview of the synth itself.
What do you have? So you
4 LFOs.
That's right.
3 oscillators per voice.
Yep.
Your noise section.
Yep.
The standard left to right that we're used to.
So yeah, you've got 3 oscillators, which obviously you've got big, chunky chicken head switches. The oscillators are very slick because they can do this wave shaping thing, where we can basically morph the wave parameter in this really cool and interesting way. So they're analog oscillators, but they're much more flexible than you would know from.
And it's an all new oscillator.
Yes.
This isn't a polyphonic subsequent 37.
No. It's a new design.
It's an all new design, all new topology.
Yeah. Then you have like hard sync. You've got waveform modulation for those settings where you can just quickly turn that, and now LFO3 will affect those wave shaping parameters. You've got FM and you've got ring mod between the oscillators. So the oscillators can be, you've got 3 of them, they can be FM'd, ring modded and other things. Then you've got your noise generator, which interestingly has its own attack and release portion, so you don't have to use up an envelope to fade it in and out. It can do that by itself. Then these go into your mixer, so you've got your mixer here, and ring mod, oscillators, so forth. Then there are 2 filters, so there's a ladder filter, which is 24 pole, ladder filter, but 24 dB, but you've got 18, 12, and 6. It's high pass and low pass. But there's a second filter, which is this state variable, and that's not based on any one synth, but it's that kind of a more sort of cutting, different sound to a Moog filter. So it has 2 filter types. You can use them in series or in parallel. And interestingly, the state variable is actually 2 filters. So if you go into, where am I looking here? In here, we can actually set spacing for the state variable, which means that you are basically shifting the peaks of 2 filters together. So you can start to get vowel-like stuff going on if you've got 3 filters. Formant-y stuff, yeah, exactly. Then you've got 3 envelope generators. What else? We then have 4 LFOs, obviously, an arpeggiator, a sequencer, which is kind of multi-track, effectively. You can record, but it's polyphonic. Yeah, and every by that I mean that because you've got 3 layers, each layer can have its own sequence, and a layer means just a complete synth voice. So this This one has got 16 voices inside it. It's like the big one. But there is an 8 voice, and then what happens is those 8 or 16 voices are divided accordingly. So you could have a 2-layer voice that's 8 voice using 2 layers, using all 16, if that makes sense. Or you can split it up. Each one of these layers can be layered on top of each other on the keyboard, or they can be split. And they also can have their own MIDI channels, and there are enough outputs so that you can send them through their own outputs. So you've effectively got 3 synths. You could have like a bass line, a lead line, and a pad. Divvy up the voices as you like, and you can come into the polyphony thing and choose how the voices are split and allocated. But do you see what I did there where I pushed the buttons in? What that's doing is whenever I push one, it's showing it that's now live on the panel. But if I push 2 or a combination of all 3, I can edit all 3 at the same time. So if you're building a sound that is built out of component parts of layers, and it's so nice, like where you can have things panned like left and right and stuff, it becomes super powerful and very, very fast. You just go, I want to like grab the cutoff of all 2 or 3, 3 layers. You just do that, and then you can edit them all at once. And then just to say, down here you've got the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider, which is pitch and mod, and then an XY pad. You can see it sort of jumping around here. And you can then assign that really easily with these. So do you remember I showed you those destinations? These are basically destination buttons for mod wheel, pad X and Y, the keyboard pitch, the velocity of the keyboard, the aftertouch, and expression pedal input. So you can just set up all of this control. And as I said before, setting up modulation is super, super easy. You just literally go velocity to cutoff, done. So, and then you can go into mod and get a nice little overview of all of the modulations that you've created, and you can then refine them. So that velocity I made, I can turn it down a little bit, like really fine tune it, or I can hold shift and super fine tune it. That's really nice when you're doing things like the pitch variance and the oscillator tracking that you were talking about before, the pitch tracking. So you see here we're doing whole values. If I hold shift, then you get the percentage, and that's really important with the oscillator tracking, because it does go quite wonky very fast. Yeah. So yeah, you just want to have a little tiny bit of that. So it's just super friendly. The other thing, we should mention around the back, obviously you've got lots of outs, so multiple outputs. You've got inserts for the voices as well, so you can insert effects, pedals, things like that. Obviously MIDI, you've got CV as well, but what we should mention is this little chestnut, which is the effects section. So yeah, like we were talking how it's a very modern synth, it's got a modern effects processor built in. So you've got a bunch of different effects which are all very interesting sounds based on old vintage analog units and digital units, but the kind of coup de grace. So by the way, we have delays and choruses and flanges and all the good stuff, and vocoders and comb filters, some really interesting stuff. But the kind of mega coup de grace is you've got eventide, genuine eventide reverb on the output. So like what better processing?
Well, they've been anybody that owns a Moog and an Eventide will spend hours exploring that particular sonicScape.
Honestly, like I've spent enough time with just a mini Moog and like an Eventide space, and this is having 16 voices and an Eventide space kind of, where you've got like the algorithms that are in there, so like hall, plate, shimmer, room, and black hole.
And the way that it's implemented is quite unique as well, because as I understand it's on a bus rather than on the analog output, so you can dial in as much, so you can preserve the analog signal path if you wish.
Of course.
The achievement that we have in front of us is quite remarkable, because what we have is a completely no compromise synthesizer, but the Moog very carefully straddled that line between creating something that is completely no compromise wish list synth, but made it incredibly accessible and inspirational and usable straight out of the box. So it's not as intimidating as many other things of that nature are.
Well, I would definitely agree with that. Like I've used premium audio equipment, put it like that, stuff that's more expensive. I have a bunch of things that are kind of high end from like the 80s and 90s, and they are invariably really not fun devices to use. Like high end meant complex and deep, and it wasn't at the time screens, processing power, and people just weren't willing to build big knobby devices. But that's all changed, and this is, I think, a really good example of how if you don't have any holds, and it's okay to spend, to put the money in so that it's got all of this panel control, and it's got very, very powerful DSP that's controlling, obviously doing all the effects, but that's controlling the brain and, the screen and all of the processing. It just you end up with something that's so friendly, but still has a foot in the past and very much firmly in the future. There's an Ethernet port on the back of this thing, and this thing can be connected to the internet, and you can dial in and service your Moog One remotely. It's like stuff like that. It's highly futuristic, but yet you've still got this beautiful, warm, vibe and heritage.
Well, with that said, let's quit with the jibber jabber and have a quick listen.
Let's have a play. Nice. I like that. What do you think, Dan?
Love it. Out of the way. Get out.
Come on then. Come on.
I've got you've had this for weeks.
Yeah, I know, mate. So I've had a bunch of time with this. What I did was I've made a load of groups with favourites. Well, I've made my own group called Favourites. You can have your own. So these are a curated list from all the official presets. So if you buy one of these, you'll get all these sounds, with the exception of that one actually, but is a modification. But nice. I like this kind of moody, cinematic sound. Try this as well. This is my note is huge swells. I'm not sure. You might have to hold it down for a bit. Now, another one is, I've got a note polyop, which was one to mess around with the XY pad. So try some big. Nice. Definitely needs to be wearing headphones for this because it's stereo. But if you push the hold button here, so what you're doing when you let go of your finger, it returns to the position. But if you put hold on, it'll stay in that position. And I'm not sure how the sound designer has done this, but there's so much happening. It's routing, I think, LFOs to control panning when that happens. And because I think there's different LFOs assigned to different pans, you can get almost, if you find the sweet spot.
It's polyrhythmic.
It's like yeah, it's like its own. And you can put hold on here. Weird. It's like a really funny one. How about pulsatronics? Oh, sorry, you go. Wait, let me just quickly try it. This is another pulsatronic. So this is another XY one. Try that all black notes. Catnip. It's like some kind of retro futuristic Steve Reich tune.
The sound of futures past.
That unfortunately won't fit in the little screen. So. It probably would actually. You can have really long preset there.
You can abbreviate.
Plus you can also put notes into the. Nice. Do you want to try some like ripping bass, mate? So we go to bass, brass bass. These are the bunch. Probably the most insane one is this, which is a good.
So it's the kind of synth that's going to would have impressed Bernie Worrell as much as it's going to impress Mr. Zimmer.
Yeah, R.I.P. And also that's that 6 dB filter, which I don't. If you've ever messed with the subsequents, they were kind of the first synths that turned me on to like the 6 dB pole, the 2-pole. Is it 2-pole? That's 1 pole, isn't it? Yeah, 6 dB is
nice
1
and
pole.
gentle.
It's a very gentle pole, but 6 dB is like a slow curve, but with loads of resonance. It's really not, it just creates this quite vowel-y thing, I've always found. But it's obviously, yes, you can get 6 dB stuff going on. What else? This is big dark bass. So this is 24. If I could stick it on 6 dB, let's just make it so it's all. That's the 6. Yeah. Let's try this, which is a sort of paddy sound, but quite weird because of this like control that whoever designed this. You let go, it sort of just goes all swirly. It's really cool.
The release curve has been attached to the modulation speed.
Yeah.
Which is attached to, again to the pan.
Yeah. You can have a look, I mean, you can snoop it in here, because if you go into mod, obviously you can then see what's been done. God, there's loads of stuff. And And there's some pad control too. So if you try the pad, I think it's going to give you some padding. It's really bonkers.
Beautiful.
TK421, it's a bit of a Star Wars reference. Oh no, it's a... THX. So what are you going to get? What aren't you going to get? Oh, this is a nuts one as well. I just basically gone through and picked the most like futuristic space sounds. I feel like this wants to like just turn into a sort of 90s drum and bass tune. That's the kind of thing that I would like use a wavetable synth to make, but that does not. That does sound wavetable-y.
It's got a very glassy quality to it.
So it's got loads of reverb on it. If not, why not? Oh, it's got phaser. Well, that explains the sound. So, there's some delay. And then you could go maybe some like funky LFO to that. So a bit of, and then that's sample and hold on the LFO. You're like, oh, I want it to be smoothed out. So you can add smooth, like putting a glide onto the, or a lag processor.
And that screen is accessed via
via
the Moog
so just
switch
to explain what I just did there, was I just pushed the More button, which is this little triangle. So now I get access to the hidden functions of the LFO. Mm-hmm. So what I was doing was applying randomness to the filter. So you get that weirdness, but it's very jumpy. That's because that's how it is by default. But you have got a smoothing control, which is the equivalent in modular land of putting it through a lag processor and smoothing it out. Same effect. You've got range as well, and you can go very high, like into audio rate. Tons of different stuff, including note on reset, meaning that every key has its own LFO. Some keys. Do you want to play? Can you play the keyboard?
I get one good note out of pretty much anything.
Yeah? Go on. Go on, give it enough me. Touch. Nice. I've got a few, I've drilled down into the keys category. So that's like, the filter's doing like formanty things. Let's get some reverb on that. Well, there is flanger on it, so I don't want to spoil that, but come on. What else? Harmonic chord. Give this a go. It's where it sort of goes from like the real to the strange. Is there like bit crush on there?
It sounds a bit crunchy. Yeah.
Well, no, there isn't. But there is bit reduction as one of the effects. It's just kind of got this like grainy quality. The threshold of compassion.
Yeah, I guess it's if you write music for movie company logos, then you're gonna have a really prolific year.
Yeah, TK41 sound is kind of there for you as well. It's got your back. Yeah, I like this stuff too. There's lots of very kind of trad sounds that I end up making on this thing, but like, it's very important to remember how there's so much capacity to just make like odd ethereal bell, inharmonic, ring modded, FM'd with reverbs. So obviously, eventide reverbs get into like very strange territory when you get into like shimmer and black hole. So with this one, it's a split. But just listen, just first on the lower section, if you hear it, it's really nice. There's like.
There's 3 parts to the sound.
Yeah. That sort of vibe where it's really nice, and you can sort of be like, oh my god, I can make a whole track with this. Anyway,
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that gives you a decent overview on the synth itself and its legacy. And thank you, Alex. And,
Mate, thanks very much.
Do check out our, we're going to do a deep dive sound design video as well, so do check that out at gak.co.uk.